Welcome to your Daily Writing Habit, episode number 246. If you're writing a book or thinking about it, or maybe trying to finish a book that you've already started at some point, or maybe trying to let more people know about your book, you are in the right place. Good morning. I'm your host, Christine Whitmarsh. If you're looking for me online, look for Christine Inc., I-N-K. Each day, I share with you the writing habits I've learned over my 18 years as a ghostwriter, book coach, and author. I have found that 3 things in particular have a huge impact on your success as an author, and they can actually turn someone who doesn't even really see themselves as a writer into a published author. Those 3 things are writing fundamentals, productivity, and mindset habits. Here's today's quote. If you're going around in circles, maybe you're cutting corners. James Patterson. Well, it is FAQs Friday for those of you listening live, where I answer your frequently asked questions, whether about the hats I wear as a ghostwriter, book coach, or author, about writing habits, productivity, mindset, publishing, any of the writing-related questions that are on your mind. And today's question comes from Facebook, and it is, what is your number one piece of advice for an author who is self-publishing? And my answer to that is quite simple, actually. Don't cut corners. And the reason this subject is actually kind of like top of mind this week for me is because of a post I saw from one of my connections on LinkedIn. And she actually brought up a post she'd seen in one of her author groups from an author who had rushed to self-publish. And here's what happened. And this was in the author's own words, the author who rushed to self-publish. She said, and I quote, "I made a lot of mistakes publishing this book, possibly because I was overconfident and willing to cut corners. This book was littered," and she put that in all caps, "with typos. I cried a lot because I was embarrassed at my own mistakes. I've been scared to market this book knowing full well there are some not so pretty reviews on Amazon." Wow. This post actually made me quite sad because, the author's situation was entirely preventable. And this woman's dream of becoming a published author did not need to end like this. It shouldn't have ended in tears of embarrassment. It should have ended in tears of joy. Launch day should be a time of great joy and pride in what you've accomplished. But this is ultimately a powerful lesson, and I applaud the author for having the courage to share it publicly in hopes that others can learn from her experience. Now, editing, as she was talking about with the typos, is obviously only just one of the areas where, as an independently or self-published author, you can possibly cut corners and go for fast and cheap rather than good. There are also things like cover design, interior layout, back cover copy, other marketing copy. There's just a lot of different places where you can kind of talk yourself into believing that it's not important and going faster is more important. But these are all part of the impression you're creating around your book and yourself as the author of that book. Now, here's my rule of thumb to know if you're making a legitimate decision to pull back and maybe not overspend or take too much time on an area of your book, or whether you're actually cutting corners. Here's my rule of thumb. If you find yourself justifying, rationalizing, or generally glossing over certain details about your book, trying to shove them out of your mind, telling yourself you don't have time or money to deal with it, but those feelings aren't going away, no matter how much you try to tell yourself it's not important, and your anxiety isn't calmed, and there's like this inner voice telling you to slow down and pay attention, you know what? Stop and listen to that voice and do something about it. If this means delaying your launch, so be it. I mean, none of us are P. Diddy dropping our next multi-billion-dollar platinum album or gold album or all the types of albums, none of us are that person. Ultimately, most people, most of your readers won't notice or care if you change your launch date. Let me say that again. Ultimately, most people won't notice or care if you change your launch date. They'll be excited about your book whenever it comes out. Your concerns about changing the date, unless you paid some huge non-refundable deposit to rent out a ballroom at a fancy hotel for your launch party, but your concerns outside of that are most likely ones of ego. Not wanting to be seen changing your mind in front of others because maybe you see that changing your mind as a sign of weakness. Remember, though, this is your book. The final product, this is you. It's your book that is going on permanent record. Not the fact that you changed your launch date. Nobody will remember that. Don't cut corners around your dream, not after all the work you've put into it. I hope that answers your question. And thank you for joining me here on Your Daily Writing Habit, where I'm helping you write and finish writing an awesome quality book. And be sure and drop by my Inc. Authors group on Facebook and LinkedIn. Any questions you have about writing a book, if you need some support, if you just want to be around other authors that are just great, supportive, inspirational group of people, very generous with their time and their resources and their knowledge. Inc. Authors on Facebook as well as LinkedIn. And if you know someone else who wants to write a book, please let them know about Your Daily Writing Habit. Thank you, and until tomorrow, happy writing.